Good morning. Thank you, and welcome to the College of Fellows Voices for the Future series. I'm Margaret Hennen, a member of the College of Fellows, and with me today is Philip Poole, APR, fellow PRSA, who was inducted in 2018. Philip is the 2024 chair of the College of Fellows. Good morning, or good
Good
afternoon, I
morning or
guess,
good
really.
afternoon. Yes, it's afternoon where I am.
Me too. Thank you for talking with me today, Philip.
Well, thank
I'm
you for the
wondering,
invitation.
oh, it's my pleasure to be able to talk with you. I'm wondering if you could share with our audience what really inspired you in 2018 to apply for the College of Fellows.
Well, it actually predates 2018.
Okay.
Um, the year that I was chair of the Alabama PRSA chapter, I was doing some research for our chapter on some of our history, and I discovered that our chapter had three inductees into the college among the very early classes. That was really the first true knowledge I had of the College of Fellows. I was aware it was out there, but really did not know anything about it. And as I researched it more because of those three individuals, I began to think that maybe my career path and accomplishments might be worthy of consideration. I saw lots of names I recognized, including people who had written textbooks, both that I had used in my own personal academic preparation, but even subsequent to that, as I would be working on projects. Uh, I thought those folks were just absolutely stellar, and if I could be included among them, that would be a career accomplishment. I'll also admit that selfishly, I thought having an extra credential with my name might help me because I spent most of my career in higher education where letters and credentials after your name are very important. And I saw this as a possibility of enhancing um, my professional credibility with colleagues. The final point, though, was that I had two friends who lived in Mississippi who were in the College of Fellows who encouraged me to consider applying. And they talked about my career and things that I had accomplished, and both encouraged me that what I had been able to do along the way would be worthy of consideration. And so I'm grateful for that encouragement because it really did have a positive effect on me both personally and professionally at the time that I was inducted. And it also was a special honor because I was inducted in Austin, Texas, and as a native Texan, to be able to do that in my home state made it extra special.
Well, great. We're very glad you did apply.
I am too.
So, Philip, what really for you is the guiding principle? What's your North Star?
Many people know already that I am a person of faith, in addition to my professional credentials. And one of the things that I've always uh, wanted to do was to do the best I could personally, professionally, morally, and ethically. The moral and ethical aspects are very important to me. And so that's what I've always tried to strive for, both in my personal life and my professional life. And the fact that those things align with PRSA's code of ethics and the College of Fellows standards of excellence just make it even more important that I do that.
Great. What what you talked a little bit what inspired you and other people who were important. Is there one person or several people who were mentors to you or who that you look to for guidance?
Oh, we'd be here all day if I talked about all the people that were important to me and were mentors to me and at different stages along the journey. And I still have people who I consider mentors, including you and others in the College of Fellows. But I have to go back to Adrian Vaughn, who was my major professor in college. Um, God bless him. He was a wonderful person. He had actually been a reporter and photographer for Associated Press before he got into uh, public relations and before he began teaching. He was not an inspiring person in the classroom, but he had a heart for students. And he saw something in me as a college student that I, I, to this day, am still not sure what he saw, but he invested time and energy in me, got me to switch from being a journalism major to being a PR major. And things just kind of steamrolled from there. He got me involved in PRSA and encouraged me in that and allowed me to serve as president of our chapter my senior year in college. But the thing that made me appreciate Adrian so much was he stayed in touch with me and was an encourager to me literally until the month that he died. I had gotten a note from him not long before he died, just checking in. And I can honestly say that I would not be in public relations or in PRSA today without his mentoring and encouragement. And he's one of the reasons why mentoring has always been so important to me. Um, we've come up with the term now, pay it forward, but he was paying it forward before that was a popular phrase. And because he took the time to invest in me, I have wanted to do the same in other students and young professionals. I could keep going. My major professor in grad school actually helped devise the first or develop the first accreditation exam that was used back in the late 60s and early 70s of last century. And he still to this day is an encourager and mentor. And there's so many others.
That's great. And I know that you have done a lot of mentoring through PRSA, through the College of Fellows and beyond. You're pretty near to your College of Fellows application, so you perhaps remember some of the things that you put on it. I really don't remember that much about mine because it was so long ago. But maybe you could share with us a couple of the exemplary uh, pieces of your career that you used or that you would use today if you were applying today, because many things have happened since 2018. So,
Well, um, I had to go back and actually find my application and study it because I could not remember for sure everything that I had put in the application. But I'm glad I did because it reminded me of some key things that were important to me then and still are important to me now. One, the university where I was working uh, before I, during the time when I was applying to the college, did not have a crisis communication plan when I went to work there. And for an institution of higher education not to have a crisis plan is a crisis. And so I was able, with a couple of other administrators at the university, to be involved in developing the first comprehensive crisis plan that the university had ever had. We studied what other similar institutions had done, did a lot of research and developed that plan. Uh, and the interesting thing is, part of what triggered us doing that, those that have been around long enough will remember the swine flu potential pandemic back in the mid-aughts of this century. And we actually included a very detailed plan for what would happen in a pandemic crisis that might necessitate quarantine, closing down the campus, ceasing operations. And that was included in that plan in 2006 and 2007. And when I hear people talk about how COVID impacted them from a crisis standpoint because they didn't have a crisis plan, I just smile and go, we were smart enough to do that 10 years ago or almost 20 years ago prior to that time. And so that being on the ground floor for that process and then leading the implementation of it more times than I would have liked to have done, but knowing that we had a solid plan in place really affirms to me that we did the right thing and did it correctly at the time. And quite honestly, we even won some awards for it. And so I'm especially proud of the fact that we did that. And a couple of institutions that I'm familiar with have used our plan as a model for developing their plan. So that made me feel really good. And then I included information in there about mentoring. I know I talked about that a minute ago, but the fact that every place I've been, I've really worked hard to include student interns in our work. Sanford was not doing that when I went to work there. And uh, despite the fact that they had a Department of Communication and a public relations concentration, they were not doing interns. And so I started an internship program, paid internship program, using students to help us in our office and uh, keeping them involved in what we were doing, helping them understand what we were doing and why we were doing it, and then encouraging them in their careers. And so mentoring would be another thing that I absolutely would include if I were applying today, in addition to when I did apply, and include that in there.
Great. What how do you keep in touch? You said that keeping in touch with your mentor, keeping in touch with you is important. How do you keep in touch with those you have mentored?
Well, one of the differences from when I was in college and with students now is we've got social media, and that helps a whole lot for us to stay in touch. But it's being intentional, checking in with them periodically, and making sure that they know I'm here for them. I can't tell you the number of times that I've been asked to serve as a reference, even for students that I was involved with 10 or 15 years ago. They still will come to me. In fact, one of the very first interns I had at Sanford University actually applied about a month ago for a vacant college presidency. He went on and ended up getting his doctorate and got into higher education administration. He applied for a college presidency and asked me to be a reference for him. And so it's staying in touch with those students and keeping up with their families, their careers, and just knowing that I'm here for them if they need me is what uh, kind of keeps me going and makes me do it on purpose, because I invested in them and I want them to know that I invested in them, and I think they do. And it's an encouragement to get them to invest in others now that they're in professional careers.
It's always interesting to see how they excel
Absolutely.
personally and
Absolutely.
professionally.
Absolutely.
So, what kind of advice would you give to someone who was considering applying now or in the future for the College of Fellows?
One of the things that I think is important uh, for the college is that those who are selected as fellows be folks who have had exemplary careers, who've gone above and beyond what was expected of them, have truly moved the proverbial needle in the profession, in the organization in which they're associated, in their communities, truly have made, and they've truly made a difference. I think that's what I would encourage people to look at as they're putting their applications together is how have I moved that needle? Where have I made a difference? And being able to document that, not just saying it or assuming it, but really being able to give examples for how they've done that. The other thing too is documenting that you've been a lifelong learner.
Mm.
I think back to when I started in this business, computers didn't exist. I mean, computers existed, but not where we all had one and it was part of our everyday work. Uh, 10 years ago, social media was still in its infancy, and now it pervades everything we do. If I had not kept up with that, I would not have been able to be a success in this business. And so being able to demonstrate that you're a lifelong learner and that you truly have kept up with what's going on in the profession, I think is very important because as fellows, we're supposed to be examples for others. We're supposed to be leaders in the profession, in the society, and um, so I think it's very important for us to show that we've kept up with all of those changes, and we can speak to them if we need to. I love to tell the story. After I took early retirement from my full time job as a university administrator, I uh, was asked to do some adjunct teaching, actually at a different institution in the city where we were living. And it was a great experience. I loved being in the classroom. And we would talk about the importance of being a lifelong learner to the students and being adaptable and flexible. And so in cleaning out at home, I found my X-Acto knife from the graphic design course I took as an undergrad. And I took it into class one day and I held it up. And the university where I was teaching actually had the state university medical school attached to it. So I held it up and said, "Does anybody know what this is?" And somebody said, "A scalpel." And I said, "Well, of a fashion." And I explained to him, I said, "When I was starting in this business, this was InDesign and Adobe and Photoshop. And now you do all that online." And they were all like, "Oh." And I said, "Had I not kept up with trends, I'd be stuck with this X-Acto knife and nothing to do with it." And so I always like to use that as an example of why it's important to be a lifelong learner.
It's a great example. Yes, and things continue to change even as we sit here. They're changing.
That's right. Absolutely.
Well, Phil,
Absolutely.
you've had quite a career, but is there anything that we have not talked about that we should in the few minutes that we have left?
Margaret, and there probably are, but it's hard to think of what they might be and to give enough time to them. But I have been blessed. I really have been blessed. Um, I'm very fortunate that every job that I have had, I have been sought after uh, to apply for those jobs or to be considered for those jobs. And not many people can say that. And I don't know whether it's just the luck of the draw for me, but uh, I really have been fortunate to have a career that I'm proud of. And being able to lead the college this year as chair is I could use the cliche dream come true, but I really can't say that because, you
No.
know, dreams are those things that are a long time in happening, and this was not. But I was encouraged to consider applying to be an officer. But to know the level of background and competency of the folks in the college, and the fact that I'm able to consider those people peers and valued colleagues and friends. Um,
I would
really,
say your reputation preceded you.
well, you are kind to say that, and I appreciate that. Uh, it is an affirmation that I truly am blessed by, and I will be forever grateful for that.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing a bit of your career with
Thank
our
you.
audiences.
Thank you.
And thank you also for the many contributions you've made both to College of Fellows and to our profession.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.